But even in that company, one man stood out. Pelé, surely the greatest player who ever kicked a ball.
It's that time again, right? Kick out the old, welcome the new. Make your New Year's resolutions now. Go!
Hello, how do you do? We are the boys in white and blue, and we're back with another episode of There's Still Time, the AFTN Soccer Show, broadcasting on CITR Radio 101.9 FM from the unceded Musqueam Territory, from the University of beautiful British Columbia. I'm Michael McCall.
I'm Steve Pender.
And I'm Zachary Adam Eisenheimer.
And it's our first show of 2023. Hopefully you all had a nice festive period, good Christmas, good New Year, all looking forward to the year ahead. We're going to get into a lot of that in the show. We're going to look back a little bit in this show to the Whitecaps 2022, our usual annual year in review. We're doing it a little bit different this year though. We're not being as thorough and not going month by month. I'm keeping it a bit briefer because I more want to look ahead to 2023 as well. So, first two parts, we'll have a little look back at 2022. Parts 3 and 4, we'll be looking ahead to 2023. We're going to do some shows on this around the Canadian Premier League as well, and maybe the national team will kind of see how things go. First of all, though, guys, I mean, how was your Christmas and New Year? Steve, did you have a good time? Any football-related presents for you under the tree?
Yeah, I guess I could say football related if it's water bottles. I got water bottles from a couple of people. But other than that, no, nothing football related. Overall, it was a great time off. Played a lot of board games. Scored a high on Ticket to Ride. Almost lapped at the fourth place person.
Wow.
So it was a good time.
That's a good game. I like Ticket to Ride.
What version are you playing?
North American.
Nice.
I've
original.
got the European one.
I had the Vancouver to Boston through the south.
Oh, wow.
So a continuous one round and got connected 5 routes, which is good.
Oh, it's been a while since I played that game. I should dig that one out. What about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it was a quiet Christmas because
no one could fly out for you.
No one could get here. And then my mother-in-law has a back issue, so we couldn't spend the day with them, but saw them other times. I got to spend it with my 3 favorite people, so that was nice.
But Steve and me weren't there.
My 3 favorite non-AFTN.
Okay, right, that's fine. Just to clarify that.
Yeah, and I got to hang out with my wife and my kids, which was great. And yeah, and then I was working on New Year's Day, so New Year's Day was our New Year's Eve for us as a family.
Yeah, and it's nice. My voice has just started to get better, just as yours seems to be going as well. So
yeah.
So I mean, it's good. Let us know if you got any football related presents as well. I got one this year. It was a book I was wanting by the author Daniel Gray. I've got a number of books of his from over the years, his football books. This is one that he wrote when football was just getting back going after COVID, when the small teams were able to let fans in, but the big teams weren't, just because of the numbers and everything involved. So it's called Silence of the Stands. I believe it officially comes out in Canada this month, actually. So I got it sent over from the UK, got Caitlin to order me that. So Daniel Gray's a guy that we've hoped to have on the show for ages. He said he was going to come on, and then I just have never got back to him to a sort of time. So maybe when the book comes out, we will finally get him on. Obviously, there was some sad news as well between the Christmas and New Year period. There's a few well-known people passed away, but just before we get into our Whitecaps chat, I just want to focus on the king that passed away. Pelé passed away on December 29th at the age of 82 years old. The Brazilian, the only man to win 3 World Cups, 1958, 1962, 1970. I mean, you feel that record could be broken at some point, possibly by Mbappe. I think if France had done the business this year round, there was a good chance that Mbappe would beat that. But absolute legend of the game. Officially, FIFA recognise his goals as 1,281 goals. 526 of those, though, were scored in unofficial friendlies and tour games, but in official games for clubs and countries, 767 goals scored, 643 for FC Santos, 37 for the New York Cosmos in the NASL, 77 with the Brazilian national team, 9 with a Sao Paulo select, and 1 with a military team in Brazil as well. He is regarded by many as the greatest of all time, and just get some of your thoughts on the legend really that he is, Steve.
Yeah, and obviously never watched anything live of his, way before my time, but clips and everything, like you can see how much he meant to a lot of people. For me, based on a lot of things, it's hard to compare generations. Definitely the best of his generation, but I personally think the best of all time. I think if you plop him into like nowadays, the amount of support he would get, who knows like how much like support they got from their clubs back then, right? Like in training and stuff like that, and the fact that nobody really got to see him because I don't think I'm not sure how much he played. He never played in Europe, right? He was all Santos.
No, because that's always one of the things that's held against him is that he never played in Europe. But it's like that again is just the Euro snobbery coming in.
But he proved himself on a world stage, and I guarantee you that it wasn't as easy for him as there is for other people nowadays. Like you talked about people getting kicked and everything like that in the past. I guarantee he got kicked a lot.
Oh,
and
he did.
Was able to get through it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some videos and some interesting articles that I've read over the last couple of days about players in these friendly games that were sent out to kick him, and then other things when money exchanged hands of, okay, we'll make sure we give you all this money if you don't kick Pelé and stuff like that took part. So these were obviously in friendlies. In competitive games, he was kicked all over the place.
So for me, like if he was in today's game, like it's so much more wide open than it used to be that I feel like he'd probably even flourish in this game. It'd probably show that he is the best of all time.
That's the thing, Zach. It's hard, I feel, in football, and in fact a lot of sports, to come up with the greatest of all time because the sport changes so much over the years, and people of a certain age think of Pelé as the greatest of all time. A lot of the modern thinking is skewed by social media, and obviously they go towards Messi or Ronaldo, and then before that you've got Maradona in the mix, and you can also throw in like the likes of Cruyff and Beckenbauer and stuff like that as well. There does feel like there has kind of been a kind of online hatchet job against Pellé's legacy in recent years, with so many folk downplaying all those friendlies and saying that he never played in Europe. But he was deemed a national treasure. He wasn't allowed to leave Brazil. That's why he had to play for Santos. He wasn't allowed to go and sign for anyone else. But also at that time, Santos were one of the best clubs in the world. So why would you have the need to go and play in Europe? But I mean, you look at the goals he scored, whether official, unofficial, combined, whatever. To get all those goals, you're one hell of a talent. And you look at things that the players do today. Everything that you see, Pelé did it first.
Yeah, it is a little bit of apples and oranges, right? When you're trying to
Yeah.
compare different players from different eras and whatever. For me personally, I always rated him in the debate with Maradona as better than Maradona.
Yeah, me
But
too.
for me, obviously Beckenbauer holds a special place in my heart for being a Bayern and a Germany player and obviously then coach and whatever. But he also kind of changed the game in a different way, playing out of the back and was very different position to all those other guys, right?
Yeah, I mean, Pele was an out-and-out striker.
Yeah. So, but I mean, yeah, it's hard to argue that he is, not the greatest of all time. I mean, we talk about those goals though. It makes me think like, if we're counting goals in friendlies and touring matches, I think I have more goals than the Whitecaps midfield this year.
I don't think that would be hard when I was digging out the stats. Probably definitely got more assists than was coming from that midfield this year.
But no, seriously though, like, he was a legend of the game, and sad to see him go. Like at the tournament when he, kind of took a turn for the worse. There was, I mean, I put it on my social media, but the one Brazil game I got to go to, they had like a giant get well soon Pele like overhead, and then they were putting his picture on one of the towers where they're flashing up scores and different things and whatever. They would flash up his image and get well soon Pele and whatever. It was, he's one of those people that transcends the game for sure. And so it's sad to see him go, and you feel bad for his family, including, isn't his mom like 100 or something? Is she still alive?
Oh, I don't know.
I thought I heard that as they were getting ready. There's going to be like a 24-hour wake or something in Brazil.
Yeah, I saw some of the pictures today. There's
fireworks
going off, and he's lying in state in Brazil.
Yeah. So supposedly his mom, I don't know if she had him when she was like 18, 19, 20 or whatever, but because I think he was 82. But yeah, supposedly his 100-year-old mom is still kicking around. So there's extra protection at her house and or whatever during this time to keep her safe from crowds or whatever. But it's a sad day for the football world, and an opportunity to reflect. I think one of the things too with Pele, I don't know if you said this, Steve, online when we were messaging about this, or like on our chat, a lot of his goals, like, we don't have video footage of, right? Like some of his, I mean, we have tons of his great goals, but there's the goals that he scored that you've never seen before because there was no coverage. So he also has that kind of both for him,
because that skews it again as well. Because
I agree with Michael's thing about the social media, like not even social media, just TV in general, like just like being on TV as much. But definitely whoever's done it in the social media age that we're in, whoever's done it recently, it all of a sudden becomes the greatest.
But it's
the greatest catch or greatest goal or greatest shot or greatest save or whatever. It's always the greatest.
But I think for even like guys like us, right, like who are maybe in between, or those who are maybe, let's say, like 30 and older, like there is, I think, as much as it works against you, I think there's also this part of like mystery of like, oh, like how good were his other goals, or like how and so it's like it definitely works more against him than for him. But I think for some people it's like, well, I wish I could see more because I've seen some that are so amazing.
And you can't compare the Brazilian leagues of now to when they were before, because they were much better back then because less people were going over to Europe to play and everything like that.
That's another.
So the Brazilian league was probably very good back then.
And like with Santos, they came and toured around the world, and they played a lot of friendlies over in Europe, in North America. And obviously people know that Pele did play in Vancouver. He joined the New York Cosmos, only actually officially played one league match in Vancouver with the Cosmos. But there's a great article that Bob Mackin put together, and Vancouver is awesome. And it's detailing the 7 times that Pele came to Vancouver between the period of 1971 and 1992. The first time that Pele came to Vancouver, July 30th, 1971. And Pele was part of a Santos side that came to Vancouver in 1971. But they actually played German side Hannover 96 at Empire Stadium. Santos won 3-1, A crowd of 22,193 fans were there to see Pelé score his 1,086th goal and the only goal that he scored in Vancouver. It was a 22-yard free kick in the second half. The following year, Santos were back in Vancouver. This time they were taking on a BC Vancouver Premier League All-Stars side at Empire Stadium, and Santos won that one 5-0. Just over 16,000 fans in attendance for that one. Pelé played 82 minutes. That was the last time that he played in Vancouver with Santos. He also returned to Vancouver in 1975, had a 2-day visit here, which included an appearance at the BC Sports Hall of Fame in their 7th annual induction banquet. He spent time on one of these trips, I'm not sure if it was this one or not, up at SFU as well. There was some good photos that surround off that as well. And he came back July that year in a friendly match for the New York Cosmos against the Whitecaps at Empire Stadium. Reserved seats were sold out for that one. General admission, just $4.50 at the gate, which equates in modern day money to about $23. Free tickets were offered to the match as well for anyone buying tickets to all 4 of the remaining regular season games. Cosmos won that one 2-1 in front of 26,495 fans, which at that time was a record local soccer attendance. September 10th, 1976, the Cosmos came for another friendly, this time though against the Canadian national team as they were preparing for World Cup qualification. Canada winning that match 3-1. And then June 30th, 1977, the only league match that Pelé played here in Vancouver, the Whitecaps beat the New York Cosmos 5-3 up at Empire. 30,277 fans in attendance for that one, a record for a Canadian club match at that time. And so many fans were heading along that there was a traffic jam on the Ironworkers. It's been billed as a football-related traffic jam, but when you look at the Ironworkers nowadays, it's kind of hard to tell the difference because there's so many traffic jams going over the Ironworkers in both directions. Not a trip to Vancouver, but Vancouver-related. September 8th, 1979, 2 years after Pelé's retirement, he performed the ceremonial kick-off at the start of the 1979 Soccer Ball in New York, passing the ball to Whitecaps captain John Craven. Of course, the Whitecaps went on to beat the Rowdies in that game. And then May 3rd, 1992, Pelé was then a FIFA Goodwill Ambassador, and he came to Swangar Stadium in Burnaby for the opening of the CONCACAF Under-20 World Championship qualifying. Canada beat Guadeloupe 4-2 in front of just over 2,000 fans that day. So it's crazy to think that the last time he was here, back in 1992, and there was just over 2,000 fans to see it. But absolutely legend of the game. For many, myself included, the greatest of all time. Rest in peace, Pelé. You did it all, but for all the modern day heroes. So yeah, the game has lost a true legend. It's disrespectful in many ways just to try and do the greatest of all time, because all these players in their own rights have been absolute legends of the game, whether it's Pelé, Beckenbauer, Cruyff, Maradona, Messi, Ronaldo. They've all done it. They've all performed at the high level. And as you said, Zach, it's apples to oranges comparing them. And all we know is he's left a great legacy behind him. And we'll have a little bit more about Pelé to close out the show. Got a Pelé-themed song for Wavelength. And then we're actually going to end the show with some words from the man himself. So check that out at the end of part 4. For the rest of this part, though, we're going to start our Whitecaps year in review, and we're going to start with the high. The highlight of the year, the Whitecaps won their second Canadian Championship, lifted their second Voyageurs Cup. It's been a tough tournament for the Whitecaps. It was definitely the best night of the year, and one celebrated by Vanni, who got a tattoo of the trophy on his arm. And I was speaking to him before Christmas about that, as he was showing me the tattoo and everything. And he just said it's the first trophy he's ever won as a manager, so he just wanted to commemorate it on him. And I think that just shows what it meant to him. You saw what it meant to him with his celebrations after the game as well, but I think that's a really nice touch.
Yeah, I don't expect anything different from Vanni. He like running up and down the pitch. I wouldn't expect him not to get a tattoo. I'm surprised the cat wasn't in the tattoo with it.
Yeah. I mean, it was a fantastic night. Second win, as I said. Now, to get there, just a quick recap. They beat Valor in the first round, I'm calling it. I hate all this stuff now in preliminary round that they call things in North America. What's wrong with calling it the first round? It's the first round of the tournament. Anyway, I won't go into an angry bastard rant just yet. But they beat Valor 2-0 on May the 11th in that first round. Goals from Russell Tybert and Ryan Raposo in a 3-minute first half spell. Midway through that first half, saw them through. They didn't push on and kill the game off, though, and that was maybe the disappointing thing from that. There was just under 8,000 in attendance at BC Place.
That's the lowest ever for a competitive match ever at BC Place, right?
I think probably is. Some of the CONCACAF Champions League games, I think, were maybe around about 6,000-7,000.
But weren't the Whitecaps going through like a horrible spell at that point where people were getting ticked off? I think they were losing a lot.
Well, yeah, they had just started to turn the corner after a horrible first 2 months of the season, so yeah. But at that point, we didn't know they had turned the corner. It just looked like, they finally got a win after a horrible April and March. But that set up a quarter final. This was kind of the redemption tour, really, for the Whitecaps after having gone out to CPL sides in the last two tournaments. But the quarter final saw them travel to Calgary, take on Cavalry FC on May 25th. Again, they were made to work hard by the CPL team, and they actually fell behind in the 72nd minute in this one to a Meyer Bevan goal. A Dan Klomp own goal, though, with 10 minutes left, sent the game to penalties, and the Caps buried all 5 of theirs. Ali Musi, the man that missed for the Cavs, giving Vancouver a 5-3 win. And when you saw the draw, this was always going to be the trickiest one on paper, and they got through it, albeit just, but hey, getting through is all that matters in the end.
Yeah, that one was probably definitely the one where you thought it was the banana peel in the tournament. And I don't even know if it's a banana peel like slip up game. It's basically at that point they were very evenly matched up.
Yeah,
Cavalry was a decent team and everything like that. But yeah, with that goal win in the 72nd minute, I had Vancouver written off at that point.
Yeah.
Was Bevan's goal, was that from distance, that one?
It was. Almost sure it was outside the box for sure.
That was a quality goal.
But that set up a semi-final on June 22nd. It was another narrow win, this time 2-1 over York United. Brian White double in the 53rd and 74th minutes did the damage. York made it interesting, though, when Isaiah Johnston pulled one back with 6 minutes to go, and they weren't really in the game. It was completely in the Whitecaps' control. And then they were just made to sweat it out towards the end. But just over 10,500 in attendance for that one. But it was closer than it probably should have been.
Well, the crazy thing about that game was, what's the goalie's name? Nicky G?
Oh, yes.
So Nicky G is the one that got them past Pacific in the shootout, and then he had a howler in that game. I remember one of the goals was absolutely awful, and the second one was not good either. Or the other one was not good either. And yeah, because the team had worked so hard, and then he let the team down. And then
York were missing, I can't remember, at least one player, possibly 2 key players, because they were away with Canada on U20 duty.
Yeah, the guy that the Vancouver brought in later, the striker.
Yes.
Yeah. And their goal was more than I don't remember the quality of the goal, but I remember that they were worth a goal in that game. They worked so hard as a team.
They weren't in the second half. They were totally outplayed in the first half.
It looked like
but they were they were outplayed, but they stuck to their game plan. Yeah, they stuck. Yeah. They stayed compact and yeah, it was I mean, when you get let down by 2 goalkeeping errors like that, it's just I felt like it was harsh for Martin Nash to say.
Yeah. But Brian White had done well in that game. I mean, the best Brian White played over the season seemed to be in that Canadian Championship. It really lit a fire under him. But then that set up the best night of the year, July 26th at BC Place. The final, Whitecaps against TFC. It was 1-1 after regulation time. White, again, put them ahead in the 19th minute. and they were looking pretty comfortable until up popped Lucas McNaughton to level with 15 to go. Again, straight to penalties, no extra time in the tournament. I think that can be something we can maybe touch on in a bit as well. Whitecaps buried all 5 penalties again. Jonathan Osorio, the man to miss for TFC, which then gave Tristan Blackman the chance to be the clinching hero, and he did it for the 5-3 shootout win. And a fantastic crowd out for this, 24,307. The Whitecaps had to work very hard to get that crowd in because they offered so many deals and in-stadium offers and things like that, which I think they need a lot of credit for, just to make sure that they got those fans in. I still think it's sad that they have to go to those lengths to do it, because we all value the tournament and we know what it means, but it is a hard sell, this tournament, as will the Champions League be next year, or this year as well. But it was great to have that crowd in, and it was an atmosphere worthy of a final. Was it
a tournament record? Or like it was a tournament record for Vancouver, but I thought wasn't like a tournament record for...
Possibly, might have been.
Yeah, I don't think Toronto gets 24 into a normal game. So I think you're right. It probably is a tournament record.
But it was a great night, and I think it was definitely the highlight of the year, pretty much for every Whitecaps fan looking back on it now. I mean, it wasn't a breeze. When the draw was made, we said at the time, this could be Vancouver's year, because you're facing potentially an all CPL road to the final. And we know that they've come undone against CPL teams in the past. And I think they got a bit of criticism as well. Some folk were kind of downplaying the achievement, which pissed me off in a couple of ways. One, they don't value the CPL, and the fact that in these cup competitions, the smaller side always rises to the occasion, because that's just how cup competitions are. But you can still only beat the team that's put down in front of you, and they did it well. And yeah, maybe Toronto weren't a great TF side compared to previous years, but again, they did everything they needed to do. They lifted the trophy. I just think it was fantastic.
I think the biggest letdown was that the York beating Pacific and not allowing that rematch, the Battle of BC.
Yeah,
that would have been special, and that would have made their victory even better.
That would have completed the revenge tour for them as well.
Oh yeah, it would have been absolutely fantastic.
At least, but the one thing about this win, at least we didn't hear like from some people that say, "Oh, they didn't even beat the Sounders in the thing" or something like that in the previous Voyagers Cup, which I remember hearing in some chat rooms. I saw it from Vancouver people.
But see, that's part of the problem. Like, this tournament, it needs and it deserves a higher profile. We've banged on about this in our 10 years of the podcast, that it needs this. And then this coming season, you've got 2 new Vancouver teams in it. We've got TSS, we've got Vancouver FC, there's Pacific, so there's 4 BC teams in. So the chances that the Whitecaps are going to be playing a BC team in at least one, if not more, of the games is very, very high.
Yeah, so, the thing is, with building the tournament, it's got to be a slow build. It has to be. You can't imagine for people to jump on it right away. The problem, though, is that because it happened the last couple of years, it happened all over the place. And I think one year there wasn't even a champion until the next year or whatever it was.
Yeah, that was the 2020.
So it was all messed up for a couple of years. I felt like it was getting there, but now it kind of reverted back, and I think it's going to have to take a small build again to get it back to where it was before it can really. The problem there, though, as well, is we talked about it in the last podcast, that if you're going to have something like this build up, like obviously it's not going to happen for Canada in Canadian soccer, but the number of tournaments that are out there, it kind of diminishes every other cup that there's. The more tournaments you have, the more it's going to diminish another cup.
Which is sad, because this is a legitimate, meaningful one.
No, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to be a problem in this case, because I don't think there's going to be additional tournaments in Canada. But I'm just talking about overall, that they have a lot of cups right now, titles, and everybody's going to look at the MLS Cup as being the number one in Canada, because of the fact that the top teams play in that league.
Well, I mean, you've talked about it yourself, Steve. Like, you're a big football fan, but even you find all the games and all the tournaments and everything that's going on a bit overwhelming at the moment. And it's like, a casual fan is going to struggle to get into some of these tournaments, especially something like the Canadian Championship, because you're not seeing it on TV, you're only seeing it on One Soccer. So it's
the other thing,
hard to grow it.
and you look at, if you want to grow it with the casual fan, they're used to watching hockey, football, American football, basketball, and whatever other sports there are. And there's only one thing happening at a time in a season. There's no like inner league tournament that's happening elsewhere. So it gets them.
That's very true.
Takes them time to get used to this kind of multi-league or cups or tournaments in one professional league.
Yeah, but I don't know. What I find happens with that is, all the people who are new to it or don't understand the structure, they ask the people who've been around for a while, what is this? And so you get to have great conversations about what it is and why it's important and and all that.
And those are the people that are coming in. But I'm saying there's some people that won't even care because of the fact they won't even bother asking the questions.
Because I mean, we all know how important this tournament is, because this win sees the Whitecaps enter into the 2023 CONCACAF Champions League, and this is going to be their third Champions League campaign. They took part in it in 2015-16 after winning their first Voyageurs Cup. They finished bottom of Group F on 4 points that time around after being drawn with the Sounders and Honduran side Olympia. They took part again the following season when it was the best placed finisher, I think, in MLS, or was it that they had the reigning champions from the year before? I can't remember now why they made it, but they didn't obviously make it by winning the Voyageurs Cup. But they were much better in that tournament. There's a lot of excitement. They won their group with a 100% record over Sporting Kansas City and Central FC from Trinidad and Tobago. And that set up a two-legged quarter-final with New York Red Bulls, which they drew 1-0 in New York, and then they won 2-0 at BC Place.
Better dead than red.
Yes. That set up the big game, which I think we all remember and enjoyed. That semi-final with Mexican giants Tigres, lost 2-0 in Mexico, lost 2-1 at BC Place for a 4-1 aggregate loss. But Breck Shea made it interesting when he scored 3 minutes in to make it a one-goal game on aggregate. But that's what you're wanting. You're wanting the Whitecaps to be playing against these giants, and that's what this tournament can do. And this time around, it's a new format. There's no groups. It's straight knockout. And it's an interesting draw for the Whitecaps. And I'm using interesting not in this is really interesting, I'm glad we've got such a big team. It's just interesting in that when you looked at who they could have got, this is a path that could give them a way ahead. They're facing Real España in the first round. They were the Caps with the higher seeds, but due to a home show at BC Place, they now have to play the first leg at BC Place on March 8th, and the second leg will take place in Honduras at San Pedro Sula a week later. Now, it's not ideal to switch that, because obviously, historically, being at home in the second leg is meant to be the advantage. But in this tournament, it doesn't always feel that way, and I actually don't mind them being at home in the first leg. I don't like how they've got to that stage, but I think it might actually work in their favour. Really? Just with away goals being in play and stuff. Because I mean, look how many times, like Montreal's a great example, and TFC and their runs and stuff as well, when the MLS teams have gone away from home and got that away goal, and that's been what's carried them over the line. Yeah, so if the Whitecaps know, okay, well, we're holding a 1 or a 2-0 lead going into that second leg now, if we get an away goal, that's pretty much it put to bed. As long as they can keep a clean sheet at home, then I think this actually kind of plays in their favour. If they give up a goal in the first leg, that's where it gets a little bit more tricky. Now, Real España qualified by finishing third in the 2022 CONCACAF League. They finished fourth in the Honduran League Apertura in 2022, 9 points back from the winners Olympia. Now, the Clausura gets underway on January 22nd. So what that means is by the time the first leg comes around in March at BC Place, Real España have played 11 league games this year to Vancouver's 2. So that is always a cause for concern.
Yeah, which is something that, I mean, this has been a conversation for how many years for the MLS teams, where the Mexican and Central American and I think Caribbean teams even have an advantage in terms of the form that they're in.
Yeah, I mean, there's no great time for this. And now with the Leagues Cup, that looks to be a staple every August now. This isn't going to change anytime soon. I mean, it's not ideal, Steve. And we have seen teams in MLS the last couple of seasons that have been taking part in Champions League struggle in MLS duty in the early going as well. And some of them just haven't recovered over the course of the season.
Yeah, it's a concern, but hopefully they go into training with a good mindset. They're ready to go, and if sometimes it can be actually an advantage because they'll be fresh and everything, and it depends on what the other team's schedule is.
Well, they're certainly going to be well prepared for going into this season because they've got a much tougher pre-season setup than we saw in 2022. If they get through this first round matchup, then they're going to play the winners of LAFC or Costa Rican side Alajuelense in April. Now, you kind of wanted to avoid LAFC if possible. We do have a good record against them, though, at BC Place, and it's getting better down in LA. It's an exciting one. This tournament, I just feel, it's a great chance to put the Whitecaps on the map. We've seen now, with the Sounders going to represent CONCACAF in the Club World Cup in February as well, folk will see, oh, that's what that pathway leads to. And when you actually physically see it in a team that you know and are rivals and you play against, hopefully it won't be as hard to sell for the fans, but I think the Whitecaps might have a bit of work to do to sell tickets for that first leg against Real España.
Yeah, that's March 8th. What is that? Is that a Wednesday?
I think it's a Wednesday. I'll check that just now. But
that's always a challenge, but hopefully they can get the people out. The LAFC potential that'll be fun. How does anyone know how Max is doing in his recovery? He's going to be like a long time still, right?
Yeah, he's not going to be.
He'll be out for like a year almost, right?
Not really a year. He could be out probably till the summer, my guess. That'll give him 6 months to recover.
And do we know who they brought in? It's a little bit different
for goalkeepers too in the recovery process.
The guy that
the shootout guy.
Yeah, he's going to be their starter, and I believe they did bring in another keeper.
The shootout guy thought he was only good at shootouts.
Well, I guess they will find out pretty quickly.
Well, if they did bring in another high-profile guy, if it's a high-end guy, then yes, I would probably say that he could. Maybe their diagnosis is he's going to be gone longer. But yeah. I would have thought that 6 months is good enough.
It wasn't a high-end guy. I think it was an up-and-coming, if I remember it, a young guy that they've brought in.
Yeah, because the thing is the biggest thing with these kind of breaks and everything, I look back to like a Luke Shaw who broke his ankle, and it took him a very long time to come back. But they were making cuts and everything down the pitch, the outfield players. Goalkeepers don't really have to make, but he needs his strength to get into those leaping shots. So that's where I would wonder if how long it's going to take. My guess would be 6 months, but of course I only play the doctor on podcasts.
Yes. I'm having a look. I can't see who it is. Oh, they picked a draft pick as a goalkeeper. I knew that. I knew they brought someone in. Yeah, Jassim Koleliat or something like that from the University of New Hampshire.
Well, surely a player named Jasser is going to be great.
Jassim, actually.
Oh, Jassim. Okay,
yeah.
That's
from
better
United
than Jasser.
Arab Emirates.
Well, no, I was thinking about Kamiri.
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking that I don't think, like I said, unless they brought in somebody huge, I don't think he's going to be. Because if he's definitely gone for the full year, then they would have brought somebody in.
Yeah, so John McCarthy is going to be their starter. I would imagine they're probably going to add another backup. They're going to have to. It's going to be an older veteran guy that can challenge McCarthy, and yeah, they'll see how it goes. I'm pretty sure on Instagram I saw Max doing some kind of gym work and strengthening work, so I think it's a speedier thing than it might be as the worst case scenario, but I think it could still be a while.
We just need him ready for 2026, right?
Yeah, that's fine. Or Dane St. Clair. Or Thomas Assal. It's up for grabs, you've got to say, for 2026. Anyway, We'll talk about that in another show. That was the highlight to the Whitecaps year. The MLS wasn't as great a season for the Whitecaps. We'll be back with a brief review of the Whitecaps 2022 Major League Soccer season after we bring you the song that's made it to number 3 in AFTN's Festive 15 for 2022. If you haven't listened to any of the previous shows, basically I've picked my favourite 15 tracks of the year. We're playing them in full at the start of every part for December and for this show as well. Who's got the 3? Who's got the 2? Who's got the 1? We'll find out one of those after this.
Hi, I'm Tristan Blackman, and this is the AFTN Soccer Show.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it was the song that made it to number 3 in AFTN's Festive 15 for 2022. English band Suede, their third entry in the top 15 from their album that was released in September, Autofiction. That is What Am I Without You? And I said I was playing all the songs in full. I played half of that one because it's a 6.5 minute song. I was thinking you maybe didn't want to sit through all 6.5 minutes, especially the ends more. Just cut that down a little bit, but hope you enjoyed that one. We've got 2 more songs to go. Who have made it into the top 2? Find out at the starts of part 3 and part 4. But in this part, we're going to wrap up our Whitecaps year in review with a look at the Whitecaps 2022 MLS season. The Whitecaps finished 9th in the Western Conference, which was 3 places worse than 2021. They finished 17th overall in Major League Soccer. They had 43 points, 6 less than 2021. 12 wins, the same as the season before. 7 draws, which was 6 less than the season before. And 15 losses, which was 6 more than the season before. So you see the importance of those draws falling into defeats where they couldn't get anything from them. 40 goals for, which was 5 goals less than 2021. 57 against, which was 12 more, and that was the killer. Their goal difference in 2021 was 0, and in 2022 it was minus 17. It's kind of incredible to think that they were still really in the mix up to the last game for a side that had, going into that last game, a minus 15 goal difference. But here they were. It's when you look at how they played and how they... If we just look at the stats, first of all, and how what I've just read out compared in every category worse to 2021, do you look at it as a season of regression?
How can you not?
Because I do feel that the team that finished the 2022 season, personnel-wise, was better than the team personnel-wise that finished the 2021 season. So I do feel they've advanced the strength of the starting 11, but they had such a slow start that we'll get into that it just made everything else fall by the wayside. I do feel they regressed, but I feel they're in a better position now going into 2023 than they were at the end of 2021 to go into 2022.
They absolutely regress, Michael. But I still don't know how you can feel that they're in a better position when, like, they haven't even replaced the top goal scorer from last year. Like,
considering how many goals he scored, is that going to be very difficult to do?
Well, for them, it will be.
Well, maybe, but I'm just saying, like, on in general terms, it would be very difficult to replace their top goal scorer.
It shouldn't be, but it also shouldn't that maybe be done by now?
Yeah, that is a concern, I've got to say. But then they might be waiting. There might be a guy that they're targeting in Europe that, and we've seen this before. And it's not just with the Whitecaps; it's other MLS teams. They're the number 2 choice for the player, but they're wanting to maybe see if they can get a deal in Europe in the January transfer window. It's not ideal, but if it means they get a good player out of it, I'm happy to wait. The danger, of course, is they then lose the player and they've got a bit of a rush on their hands to kind of fill that spot.
Oh, and the other problem is, like so many times before, it becomes that person's going to come in July.
Yeah. Because if we look at the scorers, there was 15 different players that scored. And a lot of that, of course, falls into Vanni saying he doesn't have a start in 11. He's got a start in 22. So there was a lot of squad rotation, so there was a lot of players played. Cava led the team with 9 goals. And as Steve said, it's not a lot for your leading scorer, especially for a designated player striker. And then Ryan Gauld was next with 8. My big problem is with the assists, because 16 different players registered assists, and Gauld led with 9. So 8 goals, 9 assists, Ryan Gauld. We talked about it when we did our awards. Easily the Whitecaps player of the season.
Is that only in MLS or is that combined?
No, just MLS. I'm just looking at MLS stats for this. But
so
see,
that's good. That's a goal production every other game.
Yeah, I mean, you take that, but then the drop off is frightening. because next in assists was Christian Dahomey before, and my feeling is he didn't have a good season, didn't contribute much, didn't play that much.
Yeah,
and
he
after
was a
that,
he was a lost player to Homey.
Yeah.
Even obviously David Caicedo, who everybody had high expected, but had that injury.
Yeah, that
knocked him out of the year.
That was possibly a killer for them. But then after Dahomey, Raposo and Luis Martins are the next assisters with 3. So when you're trying to figure where things went wrong, you've got to look at the creativity that is just lacking.
Okay, but the Dahomey thing is, well, I mean, we said it from the beginning, and Vanni finally owned up to it at the end of the year that, it was because they were playing him in the wrong position, right? So it's like, how much of Cava's minutes up top does Dahomey see, and how does that increase his production and synergy with other players?
We know as well, Vanni's not a big fan of wingers. He's kind of made that clear. In his system, he doesn't necessarily feel that wingers have a place, which is interesting because Axel had spoken about maybe looking to add a winger in as one of the 4 positions that he was looking to add in. So unless the system's changing, you're looking for the midfield to be creative. And this goes back to then what I was saying. If you look at who could be starting in the midfield, like Alessandro Schopf, we never saw the best of him. He had a little chat with the Whitecaps website saying that it was a tough transition to the league, but he hopes to hit the ground running, and hopefully we'll see the best of him. So if you can look that you've got Schopf and Gold, and if you have, say,
Kubas.
Kubas as well as that destroyer, and then you're looking at Gresso on one side, and then who knows on the other side, Caicedo, hopefully. The creativity should be there, and I feel that that's a much better middle than the middle that finished the 2021 season. But we are relying on Schopf to kind of show his thing. And Caio Alexandre, who will come to in the next part, he's gone. We had high hopes for him to be that guy that was going to step up, and that never happened. I mean, we've got to be brutally honest. We might never see the best of Schopf. He looks great, but he might be one of these guys that just doesn't make the transition to MLS for whatever reason. On the flip side, he might be, and then he becomes a great addition. Almost a new signing, you could say.
For me, the biggest thing is going into this, like going back to last year and this year, is where did they play Dahomey and Caicedo? Are they the strikers that are going to go with White and one other player? Are the four players going to be forming that? If they play 2 up top, is that what they're going to look at? So that's the biggest thing for me, is where do those 2 guys go? Or do those guys leave and move on, and they bring in some other players that actually play wing back?
I can see Dahomey going. I think they're very high still on Caicedo. And it's been a tough 2 years for him, because he took so long to settle in his first year with his family not being able to come with them. Then they came, he was flying, came into the season full of confidence, and then he got that injury, and it's been really tough for him. Now, him and Dahomey link up really well. So if you do then get rid of Dahomey, would that impact Caicedo both on and off the pitch? But I could see, if they want to get rid of one of them, it being Dahomey, because he's on a big ticket. But maybe they feel that Dahomey's going to be a guy that they can then utilise up front with White. Could Dahomey and White together work?
I think Caicedo also needs time up front, because they're not playing him as a winger too, right?
Yeah, it's going to be there. Like Michael said, they have a starting 22. You're going to have 4 strikers then. And you got White, put Dahomey in there, Caicedo, and then you bring in one other player. That's your 4 that are going to play up top.
But what about, and then so Betcher's 5th, I guess?
Yeah, he'll be the guy that comes off the bench. He
get
might the odd start here and there, but...
Well, I see him more dropping down to WFC 2 and then maybe going to playing in the other leagues or whatever, like the Voyagers Cup or stuff like that. That's where I see him starting more.
Because, I mean, we've only seen a brief glimpse of him at the top level, and he didn't look out of place, but you often see that in one game. It's not it's not a great sample size to know that he can do that week in, week out. Because if you look at some of the other guys we've had over the years, like Theo Bair, like never maybe quite reached the levels that we thought he was going to, and he's struggled over in Scotland. He lost being a regular starter. He's just getting a few minutes off the bench, and I watched the highlights actually of St Johnstone's game today with Dundee United, and he had a couple of looks of goal late on, but then that's tough for a striker when you've not been playing to be effective in like a 10-minute spell off the bench. So
I heard it's the all haggis diet he's on.
It could be. I did recommend that to him. You can't go wrong with it. Well, or maybe you can. I mean, if he fancies dropping down 3 levels, East Fife could do with a lone striker at the moment, so I could maybe put him on the radar. I'm sure he would love me to put him into a relegation battle in the bottom division with a chance to drop out of the Football League altogether. With one of the worst fan bases. Yeah, one of the worst fan bases that will be on your back for the slightest thing that you do wrong. Yeah, I'll get Greg McDonald to get in touch with him. Anyway, for the Whitecaps, they had a poor start, and it's been talked about a lot. You look at the first 8 games, they were terrible. You look at the last 26 games, and they were amongst the best in MLS. Second in the West, I think it was altogether.
And that's like 2 years in a row like that.
Yeah.
And
that's the worry for this year as well, with the Champions League as well.
Exactly. You're going into a year where historically teams in the Champions League, no matter how well or how poorly they do in the Champions League, have a slow start in the league.
Yeah, and no matter how talented the teams are as well.
Exactly. So what should people expect anything different? Like,
I do worry about that start to the year, I've got to say. And I think it's such a key time for the Whitecaps this year in particular, when you've got some games on TV, but not all the games on TV, that a lot of people just look at the standings and be like, meh, I'm not going to head along to that. And we'll get in a little bit about the schedule in the next part as well, which is horrendous in spells. But those first 8 games, they were awful. It was 4 points from 24, 1 win, 1 draw, 6 defeats, starting off with that horrible 4-0 loss in Columbus, where we were like, whoa, this team looks all over the place, but it's away from home, it's the first game, maybe they can turn it round. And they didn't. And I mean, there's no denying those first 8 games. It killed their season. And there's other things you can look at later on, as you can always do, for points that were lost at home and in key games. But those 8, for if you're looking at a big chunk of the season, that's what killed the Whitecaps 2022 season.
No doubt. And the biggest thing for me about this season is not beating the teams or beating the opposition, especially at home, and not beating when you're supposed to beat them. If they could do that, if they could have done that, they easily would have been in the playoffs at that point, obviously. But everything's like if with these guys.
That's what it's been for years.
It's just a lack of consistency with this team, no matter how many changes they make or who's in charge of the team. It's just odd that it always fits down to like play a consistent game all the way you're through and you'll be in the playoffs.
Well, they never had more than 2 wins in a row until that run-in, when they had the 3 home wins in a row from September 14th to October 1st, where they beat the Galaxy, they beat the Sounders, they beat Austin. Prior to that, their best they had got was back-to-back wins. And that is not going to be sustainable. Their worst losing spell, they had 2 of them, where they had 3 losses in a row from April the 9th to the 23rd, and then the 27th of August to September the 10th. But
that's the Voyagers Cup losing streak that they do every time they won it so far.
But I think one other thing about this, the poor start and whatever, it also goes back to them, I think, putting so many eggs in the Brian White basket. Like, I think with Cava they were stuck and whatever. Yeah. But like, I mean, when you have a Nicholas Overhaul, right, who's supposed to be this great analyst and stats person or whatever, it was very obvious, and we talked about it lots, that he overachieved the year before.
Mm-hmm. And you reward him big time for it.
Exactly. I'm sorry, but it seemed like they over-rewarded him. Like, sure, a pay raise, a contract extension, whatever. But it seemed like it seemed foolish at the time, and
Well,
it
yeah,
proved foolish
because
last year, and that might change this year, obviously. But like, I don't know. Going into last year, I said it lots on the show, and he is going to regress to his means because he was totally I think outperforming like his expected goals crazily
oh
in that.
yeah,
In
I mean that was
12
the
goals he scored
outlier
in that year
season in
before.
his whole career. And if you're
Yeah.
looking at
Oh, yeah.
analytics, you look at that and you go, well, that's an outlier. So you take away his best season, you take away his worst season, and then you kind of look at the rest. And to reward him so much for doing that, I know they were maybe worried that they were going to lose him, and you want to have player retention, but there's a way of doing it. And with strikers, it's always so dangerous to do that.
Yeah, and the thing is, everybody knew he was going to regress. The problem is that nobody else stepped up. You had Dahomey had a bad season. Cavallini still didn't prove like what he was supposed to, what he was getting paid. But if you look at Brian White too, yes, he only had 4 goals in MLS, but he had those 3 in the Canadian Championship. He's up to 7, and then he's basically only 2 off Cavallini. And for me, I remember going into last year, I was saying if he gets even half the number of goals he got, that's going to be good enough.
He also wasn't fully fit for for chunks of the season. He came into the season with an injury, and then he had some other stuff during the season as well. So, I mean, if he can stay healthy, I mean, this will be the season that's the real test for Brian White. Was 2021 the Brian White in a Whitecaps jersey that we should get used to, or was 2022? So I guess we'll get a gauge. The killer spell, though, for the Whitecaps, outside of those first 8 games, it was in the summer, July 8th to September 10th. 12 games, just 2 wins and 10 points taken from a possible 36 on offer. And that included 3 big home defeats to Minnesota 3-1, Chicago 3-1, and Nashville 3-0. Chicago, the worst of that in many ways because they weren't a great team. But then Minnesota and Nashville, your playoff rivals that you then gave a bit of a spark to as well. And those were the massive losses. And those were also just that spell of games is just what did them in.
Yeah, essentially one win out of those 3, and they're in the playoffs. That's all it takes, and that's where we're talking about consistency. Like those are all 3 games they should have won, or at least got points out of. Obviously, would have made that that 10-game stretch you're talking about any better if they just gotten points out of all of them. But if they got points out of them, that's good enough at that point. So it's just disappointing that they just don't feel like the team doesn't seem to ever get together throughout the whole year. But I guess a lot of MLS teams are like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of streaky bits in every team's season, but it just seems to be all the time with the Whitecaps that we have these spells that you can look back and pinpoint. If we'd only managed to get a few points from that spell or whatever, or turn those games around. And I know every club can do that, but we don't care about other clubs. We're just talking about the Whitecaps.
Well, when you compare a Vancouver team to the say Sounders, another team that missed the playoffs, the Sounders looked way more dangerous throughout the whole year. They just happened to just fall flat on their faces by the end of the year, but they still looked like dangerous, even though they weren't a playoff team by the end of it.
Yeah, us suddenly finding our chops in the last few weeks of the season is not a sustainable way of being a playoff team, and it was proved this year that you need to get those results in other things as well, and especially at home. And we'll look a little bit ahead to 2023 in the next 2 parts. That is pretty much it for our MLS roundup. I just want to touch on a couple of other Whitecaps things from the year in review. WFC 2 were back. They had a strong start and then they fell off a bit. They finished 3rd in the Pacific Division of MLS Next Pro with 32 points from the 24 games. 7 wins, 8 draws, 9 defeats. Finished 17 points back of divisional winners Tacoma Defiance. 40 goals for, 40 goals against. They were 7th in the West with the top 4 advancing. And then they were 16th of the 21 teams overall. Simon Betcher led the team with 8 goals and 4 assists. Giovanni Aguilar and Emiliano Brienza had 4 goals each. Ali Ahmed led the team with 5 assists, and obviously Betcher and Ahmed won MLS contracts for their performances. Now, we should stress here, and the Whitecaps are keen to point out, results for WFC2 matter not a jot to them. They don't care where they finish in the conference. They don't care if they make the playoffs or not, although obviously it's a good experience for the players if they have that. This team is solely there to develop players for the first team. It's been so long since we had that. It's great that it's back. And if they can produce 2 MLS quality players from that team every season, then I think it's going to be a success.
I think one would be a success.
Yeah, even one would be as well. And I'm excited to see Ali Ahmed in MLS.
I agree with that. There's no, like, if they play the right way, like the way they want to play at the big league, that's the big thing. You want that transition from the WFC to the Whitecaps, so everybody's playing the same system. And as long as they're playing the same system, that's fine. But if they can win playing the same system, it's a bonus for sure. And I guarantee you the coaches and the players are striving for that, even though the front office is saying it doesn't matter to them.
Oh, yeah.
I agree about the winning is not important with that. But did they not have divergent systems last year, at least at some point?
Yeah, Dazzle was told that he could play whatever system he wanted, that he felt was best for the players. So, Dazzle wants to win. All these players are wanting to win. And the best way to catch the eye of Vanni Sartini and the first team staff is to get those wins and to perform in those wins and to get those goals and those assists. So it kind of goes hand in hand as well.
I didn't know that they were playing different systems.
Yeah,
I thought they were playing the same.
They were able to.
I think they started out the same, Steve.
I don't agree with that personally myself. Like, what's the point of having a developmental system?
I agree with Steve that it's nice that we know Dasso, so it's nice for him to have that freedom. But I agree. I just watched the over the break. My son and I just watched the Feyenoord documentary on Disney Plus, and this is one of the frustrations they had was, as they're looking at their club, is that they don't play the same all the way through. And there was definitely it felt like Dick Advocaat in his final season didn't give the attention and the care to the younger players coming through. It was very obvious. I think the best way for your club, I agree with Steve, is that everyone is playing the same way so that you're preparing everyone to play for the first team. The problem is it's hard. One, I think that's harder in football in this era. And two, I think that, I think obviously Dasso would not play the way that Vanni plays.
No,
if it was his choice, which that's, to me, it's not the end of the world, but it's not an ideal situation.
No. And there's a lot of players moved on from WFC2, so there'll be a lot of new faces come into the squad for this year as well. But yeah, it's great to have the team back. We spoke to Axel, they are going to get rebranded and everything's going to kind of come under the first team.
When is the rebranding?
I would think probably February or March before the next MLS
coming this year
season. Yep, so it's definitely coming this year. The other new league for the Whitecaps to play in, of course, was League One BC, and the under-19 on the boys' side and what was basically the under-17 on the girls' side had their inaugural season. The boys finished third in the regular season with 16 points from their 12 games and a 4-4-4 record, missing out on the championship game, which was the top 2 teams. The girls, though, finished second in the regular season by a point to reach the championship game. They won that 2-1 over Varsity FC in a big upset at Swangard Stadium on BC Day at the start of August. 2 goals in the last 6 minutes. Iba Oching, Geneva Hernandez-Gray. Fantastic performance by the team, who were gutted halfway through when all their seniors moved down to the NCAA and university. They were playing with 15 and 16-year-olds for the second half of the season, and in that championship game, right behind the Canadian Championship win, that is right up there with the Whitecaps' achievements for 2022. Really pleased for Katie Collar and all the girls on that side. And of course, the women are going to have a new team to hopefully play for when everything is finalised in 2024, with a new Project 8 Women's League in Canada that we talked about. back in episode 538, and we had a good chat with Steph LeBay, the new Whitecaps General Manager of Women's Soccer, about that league and her role at the club as well. So we covered a lot about women's soccer in that show. One thing we didn't find out, though, was, does Steph LeBay fancy a chocolate digestive?
Anyone fancy a chocolate digestive, even though it sounds suggestive? Anyone fancy a chocolate digestive?
We always say you're not officially part of the Whitecaps until you've answered this question on the show.
Uh-oh.
If you're sitting down at home and you want to have a hot beverage, what's your hot beverage of choice? A tea, a coffee, hot chocolate?
Oh, depending on the time of year. If you're talking right now, it's definitely it depends on the time of day. Morning, coffee, maybe with a splash of Baileys. At night, maybe it's hot chocolate with a splash of Baileys.
Just as long as it's got a splash of Baileys.
It's the December tradition.
Oh, of course. And if... do you have a sweet tooth? Like, do you like biscuits, as I would call them, and cookies?
I have more of a salty tooth. Like popcorn and chips is my weakness.
Oh, so what would you have then if you're sitting down with your hot drink? What would your go-to snack be to have with it?
Yeah, it's not a popcorn for sure. If I could have some homemade popcorn with butter and nutritional yeast on it.
Oh, interesting.
Anyone fancy a chocolate digestive? Anyone fancy a chocolate digestive? Anyone fancy a chocolate digestive, even though it sounds suggestive? Anyone fancy a chocolate digestive?
So Steph LeBay there. Who doesn't like some Baileys in their hot chocolate or whatever at this time of year? I know I've certainly had a few little shots in mine in the past few weeks. That is pretty much it for our Whitecaps look back at 2022. All aspects of the club, from the first team down to the League 1 BC sides. We're going to look ahead in parts 3 and 4 to the 2023 season. Let's set that up just now, guys. What would be your hopes, your dreams, your aspirations for the Whitecaps for 2023? Let's start with Steve.
Obviously, playoffs would be a very, very aspirational, but for me, mostly it's off the pitch. It's like, and it's going to happen really soon. Get the team together as soon as possible with the players you want for the full year. I think that's my biggest wish, because I don't want to see too many changes. I want to see them together in training and basically ready to go right off the season. And that will obviously help with the playoff run.
Yeah,
this is where you
like that.
This is where you can play the I believe in miracles.
Well, we've got some new additions that we'll talk about in the coming parts, but yeah, it would be nice to have our designated player striker, if that is indeed the designated player that is coming in the striking position.
And I'm okay with one or two players not coming in right away, but I'm saying the majority of the team. I think you need 90% of the team ready to go.
Yeah.
Is the Spain thing happening?
Yeah, they are. They're going to Spain, so they're getting back to training.
Did I miss that announcement?
I don't know if they've officially announced it, but they come back to training this Friday. So on January the 6th, they're back for their medicals. That's going to be on the Friday. Then they're on the pitch for the first time on Monday the 9th. It's kind of like media day as well, so we're all heading along to that one up at UBC. And then on the 10th, they fly to Spain for 12 days.
Right, and they just like training and sightseeing, or like they got actual friendlies?
They've got some games against local sides lined up as well. They're going to be based out of Marbella. They're flying into Malaga, and then I've told them they've got to go and see Gibraltar, because it's just a little hop over to Gibraltar, and it's a great experience. So it's going to be good team bonding, but it's also going to be some games against some second, third levels, reserve sides of La Liga teams and Spanish teams. So they are going to get a bit of a test out there. They're certainly going to get put through the paces. It's not a holiday. It's not going to be like Hawaii.
Oh, man.
I know you're focused on Vancouver FC, but what would be your hopes for the Whitecaps for this year?
I just hope they take the steps that they need to.
Yeah. I think that's what everyone's wanting.
Honestly, for the fans of the Whitecaps, I hope that I've been listening to some of the episodes I missed, Mike, when I was gone, and to quote, what's our friend? The pod is around.
Oh, the ball is round.
Ball is round. Eve, right? So I was listening to some of your conversation with Eve recently, and I hope for the fans of Vancouver that they get a designated player who is sparkly. I think is what Eve would say, because I think they need that. I think that the approach over the years hasn't worked. Yeah, and I would agree with Eve that Ryan Gauld is sparkly, but they need, I think, someone that people will draw people in just by who they are and not just because they're a quality footballer. Although ideally they're both. I'm not saying
I don't think you need to break the bank.
No,
but it would be nice to have a recognizable performer that has performed.
Yeah. It doesn't have to break the bank. It just someone that people can identify with. But it'll be interesting to see how they fill out that roster. I think there's I think some significant needs there.
I would love, like, my ideal season would be a good run in the CONCACAF Champions League and at least the semi-finals in the MLS playoffs, which it still hasn't been conveyed as to whether the playoffs have changed into this group stage that they've been talking about. But everything's pointing that it's going to be that. But if we can get a good run in the Champions League, I'd love that.
Did you just say semi-finals in the playoffs?
Yeah, at least. Because I like just making the playoffs and going out in the first round, I don't give a toss about that. It's like, for it to be valued, you've got to get past that.
So under the old format, you want them to win 2 rounds?
Yes.
Wow.
I don't think it's going to happen. This is what I would
someone
like.
Someone has their hopes.
It's like what I said at the end of the season. We've got to take that step. We're into 2023 now. We've been in this league since 2011. We've got to take this step. To me, the step is getting to at least a Western Conference final. But because of how crap it's been the last few seasons, I would take a semi-final. Obviously, things look like they're changing with the playoff format. But we've got to take that step. Otherwise, there is a danger that the Whitecaps are just an irrelevance, not just in Major League Soccer, but in the local market, as much as I hate using that word. Yeah. But they've got to have a season on the pitch. And as Axel said when we spoke to him in the Christmas show about his wishes for Christmas, a quiet year off the pitch with no more scandals, and that everything just moves on and we take that step forward. That's what I'm looking for the Whitecaps. But we are going to look a little bit ahead now to that 2023 season that is coming up rapidly. And we're going to be back with that after the song that's made it to number 2 in AFTN's 2022 Festive 15.
Hi, I'm Stephanie LeVay, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's number 2 in AFTN's Festive 15 from 2022. A three-piece band from Chicago, Illinois, former Artist of the Month here at AFTN. That was Horse Girl, and a song taken from their Versions of Modern Performance debut album. That was Anti-Glory. I just absolutely love the start, the guitar riff in that song, and that's one of the things that's taken it up to number 2 in our top 15 tracks of last year. Got a chance to see them here in Vancouver a few months back as well, and excellent performance. Looking forward to seeing what they go to do with their sophomore album. And I guess the term anti-glory kind of sums up what the Whitecaps MLS era has been so far, from 2011 to 2022. Will that change anything come 2023? Well, the fixtures for the 2023 season came out the earliest than we've ever seen them before. They came out before Christmas, which meant it was nice to be able to plan ahead, and for those that maybe want to take in some away games, book some trips in the Boxing Day sales perhaps. Let us know if you were able to take advantage of that. The MLS regular season will kick off at home on Saturday, February 25th for the Whitecaps. They will take on Real Salt Lake. It will end at home for the Caps on October 21st against LAFC. If they're needing to get something from that one to make the playoffs, that's possibly one of the toughest opponents they could have to close out the regular season. The 14 Western Conference teams will play 2 games against each intra-conference opponent. The Whitecaps will play an extra game against their Cascadian rivals Portland and Seattle, as well as 6 matches against Eastern teams, and that includes Montreal at home in April and Toronto away in September. The majority of the games in the 2023 season for the Whitecaps will be played on a Saturday. There will be some select Wednesdays, all with 7:30pm local start times, and that's because of the Apple deal and them wanting to have all the games in the East kicking off at the same time, all the games in the West kicking off at the same time, so they can have a whip-around show. In the 34-game regular season, the Whitecaps will play 26 games on a Saturday, 13 at home, 13 away. There's going to be 7 matches played on Wednesdays, 3 at home and 4 away, and 1 home game on a Sunday. The 2023 schedule includes 3 weekends where the Whitecaps won't have a match. These dates come in conjunction with the international soccer calendar, so that's from June the 16th to the 18th, because the FIFA international window is from June 12th to the 20th. September 9th to 11th, because that window is from September 4th to the 12th, and October 13th to 15th, with the FIFA international window from October 9th to the 17th. Few things to talk about from the Whitecaps in terms of that schedule. We'll get into that shortly, but before that I just want to play you a little bit of thoughts from Whitecaps head coach Vanni Sartini on the Whitecaps 2023 schedule. The schedule came out yesterday. Just wanted to get your thoughts on it, and in particular that horrendous 6-game road spell at the end of August into September. And is there a particular reason that you're away for those 6 games, or is it just how things worked out?
Well, I don't know if it's a particular reason, because at the end we're away for a lot, because there's the Leagues Cup first, and then we play in the end of July, and then basically end of August once, and then basically we're off in September. But I don't know, probably because September is so beautiful here that people wants to go on the beach or whatever, and they don't want to come to see the Whitecaps. No, but jokes aside, yeah, it's going to be very hard at that time, but there's 2 things. At the end is 17 games home and 17 games away, so that's okay. And I'm not that, I would say, unhappy with that 6-game stretch away, because we have all the Eastern travel in those 6 stretch, and 2 of them that will be combined, probably Chicago and New York. So we'll never have like those. I think it's worse when you have you play in Vancouver, then you have to go to New York, and then you have to come back maybe in the same week to Vancouver again. So it's I think it's a added responsibility to start very well, because we're going to have more games home in the first half of the season, and then to also because we have the Champions League at the beginning. Hopefully we're going to play several games in the Champions League, so it's better to have more home games at the beginning, and have a lot of points in order to, I don't want to say be secured, but be in a good spot when we'll have the 6 games away in a row, on a row.
So just some quick thoughts there from Vanni Sartini on the schedule. I want to touch on 2 things about the schedule, just to finish talking about the fixtures. The horrendous away stretch from August 26th to September the 3rd, 6 games on the road, including 2 out east in Toronto and at New York City FC. It follows 4 straight games at home in league action between July 8th and August 20th. But in that period as well, there's the month-long Leagues Cup, which, with the Whitecaps not beating Minnesota, not being in the playoffs, mean the Whitecaps don't host a group, so they are on the road for that whole Leagues Cup tournament. So it's looking like the Whitecaps will have just 1 home game in a 72-day spell in late summer, which, for keeping people interested in the team, never mind getting some money through the gate, but for keeping people interested in the team, it's absolutely shocking.
That is unfortunate.
But the biggest thing with that is that I'm assuming the Leagues Cup happens between July 15th to August 20th, right? Around that time. I
think it kicks off the end of July for a month, for 4 weeks, and then it finishes just before the 20th. Yeah, I think it's something like the 15th to the 15th.
Yeah, so something like that, whatever the case is. If you look at their away schedule, honestly, it's not as bad as people would think of it when you're looking at it on paper. And August 28th, 26th to Portland, they come back to Vancouver, obviously quick trip there. Then August 30th and September 2nd, Chicago, New York. Then they have a 2-week break in between, and then they go Toronto, Houston, and Salt Lake.
So I mean, they've got the international break in there. No, but to not have fans able to get to BC Place to watch them is what's horrendous.
Yeah, that's the bad part. Like, for them themselves, I don't think it's a huge thing. But yes, you're right. When there's a big break like that, you're not going to have fans coming in, and and there's this is the period of time too that you're going to have like people, transitioning to the Canucks at that point, because their season is about to start in October. So you're going to have a lot of people switching off anyways, and if you don't get home games, you're going to lose that crowd.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're giving the Lions the whole summer basically to get the local fans in as well, and obviously they had a good year this year or last year.
If I'm not mistaken, that's around when the season ticket renewal thing happens too, around end of August.
I mean, you don't want to be in a bad run at that time and then have all those tough games on the road either. But I just think from a fan's perspective, not getting to watch your team at home in that period is just not ideal. And then if we look at the Cascadia Cup fixtures, because obviously it's not balanced, and the way that the schedule has worked out, then all the 3 Cascadian teams are playing each other 3 times. So the Whitecaps play Portland at home on Saturday, April the 8th, and May the 13th for rivalry week, and then August 26th away at Portland as well. Then they're at home to Seattle on May 20th, which is also rivalry week, which seems to go more than a week, but there we go. They don't understand how long a week is at MLS. Then they're at home at Seattle on July 8th, and they're away on October 7th. So the supporters groups aren't happy. The groups from all 3 Cascadia clubs, they've agreed for the rules for the Cascadia Cup for 2023 with it being unbalanced, which is basically all the games will count, but they're wanting a balanced schedule. They want the just either home and away for all the things and have more fixtures against, say, teams out east or whatever. Obviously, MLS want more Cascadia Cup games because it's an easier sell for TV and there's the excitement around that. Do you like having 3 games, or would you want just balanced home and away?
Well, you know what? If the supporter groups want to screw over MLS, if they want to do it, make one of the games not Cascadia Cup related.
They used
you know
to.
which one you
Yeah,
do?
that's what they were doing.
One.
Yeah, they were doing
you
that.
do the rivalry week. You say that's not a Cascadia Cup game, and they can't sell it then on the TV. So
they've done that, Steve. They've done that. They made it not part of the Cascadia Cup. They've done it where they didn't do. I think even didn't do TIFO for those games that were the rivalry week to kind of stick it to the league. And I guess they're trying a different approach this time.
Yeah. I would say that no, you continually do that. This is not a Cascadia Cup official match, and that's the way you get it done. If you want to do it, you stick to your guns every year. You don't change it up at all.
The big positive, though, is every game's on a Saturday this year. So there's no more stupid Fridays or midweek or Sundays that cause travel issues, and for fans that then want to go and make the trips of it. I mean, I didn't get down to any of the games last year, so I hope to get down to at least a few of them. Just to end this part, the Whitecaps are going to be taking part in 6 competitions this year. So I just thought a chance for you to rank the importance of them. There's obviously MLS Cup. There's the regular season, the Supporters Shield. There's the CONCACAF Champions League. There's the Cascadia Cup. There's the Canadian Championship, Voyageurs Cup. And then there's the new Leagues Cup. In importance to you, where would you rank them in 1 to 6 of, if the Whitecaps were to win it, it would mean the most to you? I'll kick it off to give you a bit of time to think.
Wait, can we all agree that the League's Cup's on the bottom?
No.
Yeah.
I have it third. The top 3 teams in the League's Cup qualify you for the CONCACAF Champions League.
Right. Yeah.
So you're actually qualifying for something. So why would you not want to be in a tournament that actually means something and gets you something at the end of it?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot that. Like you forgot which competition.
Yes, I was thinking it was the Club World Cup initially, but yeah, that would be awesome if it was that. I'd take that, and it might be for the expanded one that's coming up, to be honest.
Eventually.
Okay, so you want to go first, Michael?
Yeah, for me, the most important, if we were to win the CONCACAF Champions League, I think it's huge because it gets us into the Club World Cup. Then for me, it would be MLS Cup. Then it would be Leagues Cup because of what I just said, the qualification for the Champions League as well. The Voyageurs Cup, which obviously gets you into the Champions League. Supporters Shield, it would qualify us for the Champions League as well as winning that with the new rules. It doesn't matter if you're American or Canadian. If you win it, you're in the Champions League. So I like that. I've never really cared about the Supporters Shield before because it ultimately means nothing. We know you're the best team in the regular season, but you don't get any real reward for that apart from a 1 first-round bye. And then the Cascadia Cup I actually have last because, yeah, you've got bragging rights, but I'd rather have actual meaningful trophies over something that you can just go, hey, we're the best of 3 teams.
Okay, so I have Voyageurs Cup number 1, just because it's the
respect, Steve, cup. Respect.
MLS Cup number 2, and which will probably surprise you. And there's a certain reason I have it for this. Is Supporter Shield number 3. The reason why is because if the Whitecaps win the Supporter Shield, that means they had a hell of a season, and that's what I'm looking for in consistency.
Yeah, it's been fun as well. You have enjoyed that season.
Exactly. So that's number 3. Then I'll go CONCACAF Champions League, and then Cascadia Cup, and then League Cup is last, only because it's the newest one, and I want to see how it works before I even put it, rank it. And also, it would, if I put it any higher, I would deflate my ranting of new cups being added on all the time. So for that reason as well, League's Cup number 6.
Steve, I like Steve's.
I like Steve's too.
A lot.
Not as much as mine, but I like Steve's.
I think so. I'm gonna caveat this with, this is what not what my personal preference for me as a person. This is what I think Vancouver should prioritize in 2023. The Whitecaps should prioritize. So I'll say Voyageurs Cup number 1 as well, because it'll mean that they qualify for next year's Champions League again, and it'll mean that they solidify that 2 years in a row, which they've never done. So I'll put Voyageurs Cup number 1. I will put CONCACAF Champions League number 2, because like the Voyageurs Cup, it's a short term, like it's a I think they only have 4 rounds to win it, and I don't think they're going to win it, but I think that they should put that second. After that, I will say MLS Cup, and then Supporter Shield, then Cascadia Cup, and then Leagues Cup on the bottom. Because I think like you said, the Cascadia Cup, although over the years it has not proved this to be, but Cascadia Cup and Supporters Shield, if you do well in those, obviously that puts you in a good place for MLS Cup.
Yeah, it does mean you've had a good season. So let us know your thoughts as well. I'd put that out on Twitter before Christmas as well. I'll dig some of those answers out.
The other thing I'll say, if you win the Voyageurs Cup, then it doesn't matter what you do in the Leagues Cup.
That is true. You've already qualified.
Exactly.
It'd be nice to beat some Mexican teams and have those games, although it doesn't look like we'd be having them here in Vancouver. Although for the later rounds, if we get through we're definitely not hosting a group. So I guess if we win a group, it would possibly give us a chance to host some games. But we'll see. It just makes it a tougher group stage anyway. But that is it looking at the schedule. We're going to look on the playing side in the last part of the show, because there could be a new addition by the looks of it. There's some definite new additions in the draft picks, and we'll get thoughts of Axel and Vanni on that. And we'll be back with all of that after this song that's made it to number 1 in the first ever AFTN Festive 15 after this.
Hi, I'm Ryan Gold, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
So welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's our first number 1 in AFTN's new Festive 15. Hope you've enjoyed the songs that we've played. You probably haven't. Especially those people that live up in Whistler that just like their country music. You know who you are. Constantly on me at Twitter. Anyway, that is the number 1 in AFTN's 2022 Festive 15. From Russia, with love, it's Ice Peak, Dead But Pretty, taken from their Kiss of Death album. Fantastic song, fantastic video. Check it out.
Video.
Support the band out as well, because they are banned in Russia for their anti-war stance and raising money for Ukrainian refugees and stuff as well. So go and
I'm
support.
assuming the video they didn't actually film in the Kremlin then, the video.
Probably not, no. I think that was a back screen because... although that was before the war had started, or just as the war started. So maybe they did get to do it, but yeah, they
got a big Sting vibe happening for me.
Oh, yes, with the makeup.
Yeah, with the makeup.
Anastasia as well. Give her a follow on Twitter. Some great.
I'm not surprised it's Michael's favorite song.
Instagram.
The video has like basically zombies involved, and obviously wrestling with the Sting thing, and then obviously Russian lesbians, which is something that you're introduced with.
Oh yes, dead but pretty. Which Zach is looking just now. He's looking tired. I think he's still alive. No, he hasn't passed away. It just looks like that. You can't see that on the show. It's been a long show for Zach. Last part, we're going to look at some of the new players. We'll come to the draft picks in a sec. I say new player. It hasn't been 100% confirmed yet, but everything is pointing...
But he's also been rumored for a long time too, so it's almost starting to be not a new player.
Yeah, I know. It's like the man from Fray Bentos. We did our Fray Bentos jokes with corned beef and everything, and the meat pies. I talked about all that. Now it looks like he is going to be a Whitecap. 23-year-old Uruguayan, 6 foot centre-back, a right-footed centre-back as well. Matias Laborda, he's won 3 titles with Nacional in Uruguay, made 101 appearances, 6 goals, been capped with Uruguay under 18, under 20 and under 23 levels. It's a free transfer from Nacional. It was looking like San Lorenzo were set to sign him, but the word coming out in the last week from South America is that they couldn't meet the Whitecaps' wages that they were going to pay him. So it looks like he has chosen MLS. I would say it's like 98% done. He hasn't got his Canadian visa yet. He's expected to get that soon. He's expected to join the team in Spain. I know we're laughing at that, but it's South American. How hard can it be for them to get the visas?
Let's find out.
He can also play right back as well. He should join the team in Spain. So what Steve's wanting, getting the band together early. Are you surprised that they've gone for a right-footed centre-back? What's it going to mean for Tristan Blackman? Is he going to be playing out of position on the left? Will he play in the middle? Are we going to add a left-footed centre-back? What will that mean for Ranko? Discuss.
Yeah, if they bring in another, I know I talked about before that I thought Ranko still could be a starter, but if they bring in a left-sided guy or left-footed guy, then I definitely see Ranko moving on. I don't see him being a bench player. There's no point in having him on the bench. I feel like they have enough bench depth anyways. So definitely I see that moving on. I personally think that Blackman could play on the left side. He's not going to be playing left back. He's going to be playing left side as center back, which I think that there is a possibility for that to happen.
Because we're assuming Vanni sticks with his favoured 3 at the back. I know he tinkered with a 4, but...
No, I think...
Yeah, but his 4, it was like a fake 4, you would say. Anyways.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if he does go 4 at the back, Blackman's the right back.
Yeah,
right.
When you're doing that, and then we're just looking probably Martins as the left back or Gutierrez. I mean, his ratings and people that's done all the scouting on him, he looks a top quality player and a great addition. And if he was a left-footed centre back, it would be you feel it would be ideal. But I like this. Axel had said that if Derek Cornelius moved on, then they could put more money into their target centre-back or add 2 centre-backs. So we'll either see whether they've had to up their wages to get him from San Lorenzo or whether we are going to get another left-foot centre-back in. But a great addition. It's the start of hopefully a few big additions in the coming weeks. One Whitecaps player that isn't coming back, at least for the 2023 season, is midfielder Caio Alexandre. The Whitecaps extended Alexandre's loan to Brazilian Serie A side Fortaleza through to the end of 2023, so December 31st, 2023. The new loan agreement includes an obligation to purchase if certain performance triggers are met by the Brazilian side. Alexandre originally joined Fortaleza on loan last August, and Axel Schuster said Caio had expressed his desire to remain with Fortaleza, and all parties agreed that that was the right path for him. And the Whitecaps are wanting to follow his progress, and so far his progress seems to be going well. Made 12 appearances with Fortaleza, 11 of them starts, scored a goal for them last season, and helped the side secure a spot in the 2023 Copa Libertadores qualifiers. I guess it's a win-win situation really for the Whitecaps, because if he does well and he ends up staying there, they're going to get a transfer fee for him. If he progresses and they decide not to sign him, then the Whitecaps are going to get him back as a more all-round better player. It just feels sad that we never really got to see the best Caio Alexandre that we could have seen because of the injuries, and he looked such a good signing. But I think this is definitely best for player for the Whitecaps that he at least spends this year down there, and you've got to say probably move on as well. So while we're all eagerly awaiting the additions of new players, especially a new striker, maybe a designated player striker in that, we do know that the Whitecaps have made 4 other additions to either the MLS roster or the WFC2 roster, and that of course came from the 2023 MLS SuperDraft, which, like the schedule, was earlier than it has ever been before, taking place before Christmas. The Whitecaps had 4 picks over the 3 rounds, and they went fully into the Christmas spirit, I feel, by trading up to add JC. He's always popular around the Christmas period because in the first round, the Whitecaps acquired the 5th overall pick from Houston in exchange for the 13th pick that they had. They paid $125,000 in 2023 GAM, $100,000 in 2024 GAM to trade up to select 23-year-old Generation Adidas French attacking midfielder Jean-Claude Gando from the University of North Carolina, Greensboro, with that overall 5th selection. Born in Douala, Cameroon, Gando moved to France at the age of 7, went on to play for Paris FC2 and Amiens SC2, then headed to the US to college, scored 9 goals and adding 22 assists in his 2 seasons with UNC Greensboro. Very highly rated player, and you've got to feel that the Whitecaps really, really value him if they put all that GAM on the table to trade up for him. They had another selection in the first round as well. With the 29th overall selection, they chose Canadian forward Levonte Johnson from Syracuse University. In the second round, they took centre-back Daniel Nimick from Western Michigan University. That was 42nd overall. While the third round saw the club select centre-back Buster Schoberg, 71st overall, also from Syracuse University. We'll get some of our thoughts on those draft picks shortly. Before that though, let's just hear a little bit of the thoughts from Whitecaps head coach Vanni Sartini and sporting director Axel Schuster. A chat that they had with some media after the draft took place. So you're going to hear some questions from myself, from Harjeet Jahal and from Nathan Durek as well. So let's get the thoughts of Vanni and Axel on, in particular, JC Gando and Levonte Johnson. Just wanted to start off with 2 questions about the first pick that you had today. With all the trades that were getting done today, was this a player that you had highlighted that you really wanted and you were a bit concerned that you might not get him because other teams were moving up in the draft?
Yeah, JC was a player that I want to just say again what Axel said, that we saw. It's not just me. And I also philosophically think that the head coach of this season should have maybe should have less say than in other things in the draft, because the draft is not only signing players for next year, but signing players for the future of the organization. But JC was one of the players that the consensus was unanimous, and we saw like in a two ways, I would say, like a player that he can grow up and be a player that he can develop, but at the same time probably a player that can help even immediately. And so when there was the possibility to let's say get up in the queue a couple of spots and be sure that we were going to sign him, we did it. It was in the plan, and we're very happy with the choice that we made.
I'll direct this one to Axel then. What was it about JC that you saw that made him the guy that you wanted? I think people from afar might look in and think maybe midfield wasn't one of the pressing priorities, but you obviously value it a lot in what you've seen from him to get this done.
Yes, there have been two guys actually that we have put so high on our list that we would have felt comfortable. We felt comfortable to trade up even to get them, because we were worried that we would not get them with the 13th spot. Actually, we have been right. The other guy went way early. Said that the two guys, and actually with GC. Why? I think because they, other than a lot of the other guys that are in this draft, have not only shown some talent and some highlights and some vision how things could develop with the player. Both of those players, and GC was the one, have shown us enough that we think that they immediately can play. And if you ask us why GC in a position where maybe people have not expected us to pick, the reason is because he is also a completely different profile than that what we have. He's a player who feels comfortable to dribble with the ball, to come with a lot of speed through his space in the middle of the park, and then to distribute the ball. And while we have been in Raleigh and have looked at the scrimmages there, he was the one player who really always could give an impact to the games, who really could make something happen, who could actually make a difference in those games. And that made us comfortable that he can give us something immediately that we maybe don't have in that way in our midfield. And of course, he's a young player. He knows that he has to grow a lot. There are other areas in his game that he has to grow in, but all areas where we feel comfortable that we can help him to grow. And those things he has, I think, can help us in certain situations of games.
My question is for Coach Vanni. Where do you see JC playing in your formation? And do you see him more as a role player or a starter, or what specifically?
I ask first on the second question. The role player as a starter, it's the field that will tell us. When we start at the beginning of the season, everyone has a chance, and everyone can become a player that is more important or less important accordingly of his performance on the pitch during the training session and the game. So that we'll see. About this position, I think that we'll try him in two positions mainly. One of the two number 8s and one of the two 10. I think he has quality to play in both of these positions. That's another thing that we like about him, in the sense that he can play can fit 3-4 position on the field, and it's very important, especially for a young player. So we will see. We will utilize him in preseason in both the position number 8 and number 10, and hopefully he's going to be good in both. If not, we'll decide which is his best position, and we'll see.
What was his reaction? Was he excited? I imagine he didn't think there was going to be a trade for a team to jump up and acquire him.
Yeah, it was I talked with him right after we picked him. I called him. It was pretty late in France, but he was pretty excited. And I actually mentioned to him that, besides the standard responsibility to come in preseason with a good form, we the team actually we did an investment on it. We made a trade paying Sam Gam, and he actually said that he was very honored and very humbled by the thing, and so that gives him even extra motivation to come and show his quality from day one.
A little bit about Nagando that you got here first with your number 5th or your 5th pick here. One of the things that we're trying to research as rapidly as we can about what he could offer the team, and it seems that he has a very high intelligence in being able to move the ball into very dangerous positions. The number of assists he had, he assisted in almost half of the goals of his team last year. Is that something that you're looking at as a guy that might be able to move the ball really, really efficiently through the middle of the park?
I can answer that. Yeah, his quality, the main quality that he has, in my opinion, are two. He's able to get out of pressure. It's very skillful to get out of pressure. And he's also very good at moving the ball forward, either with a dribbling or with a pass forward. So that's for sure two qualities that we saw in him, and we want to keep developing and see that if he can get it at the highest level. Because he was playing in a certain position and in a certain style of play with his college, we want to see how much of his capacity to go box to box is going to be ready for MLS level, and that's I would say the question that is going to bring us understanding if he's going to be more of an advanced player, a number 10, or more a back-to-back, or more a box-to-box midfielder that also has this kind of quality.
He's also one of the oldest players that's in the draft this year, 23 years old. He also has some first-team experience back when he was with Paris FC. Is he a guy that, I guess in your scouting, that you thought might be the most MLS ready?
Yeah. That's that I said it before. The consensus was unanimous because it's not only a prospect, but we think that he's a player that he can help from day one.
It came also earlier up, and with the age, I want to say, yes, he is. Maybe he was one of the oldest players that was available, but he has also a different development path that we have to know. A different development path to a lot of those players that have been in this draft and came from college now. He has already played in 2 French clubs and has been in their development system. So, and then also, that was also an important fact for us. He has actually went through a challenging time, and he was very outspoken about that in his interview that we have done in Raleigh, how challenging that was for him. And he has also went through this experience and has seen that not everything always happens easily. So for that reason, I think, yes, he's more mature, and the age was actually an advantage, or was here something that we rated high.
Talking about your other pick here that you took at 29th with Levante Johnson. What was it about this player? I know that he has done very well for his college career. He's bounced around between a few colleges. What was it about him, just because we know so little about him?
His characteristic. It's the type of striker that I like. He's very vertical. He presses very well. He attacks the space. He can be, I think he has all the ingredients to become an MLS player. And he is also very enthusiastic to come. And so I think that mainly was the characteristic and the type of player that he is. His work ethic was very high in all the games that I scouted, and even the guys that our scouting group, when they went to the college combined, they spoke highly about him. So that was the main reason. An additional fact, it's also a Canadian guy, so we're always happy when we're able to give chance to Canadian players to come to the league.
Just to go back, Vanni, to Levante, he's coming in from the NCAA champions as well, so he's got that winning mentality. He's had a really good season there as well, with 11 goals and contributing assists as well. Bringing in a guy, which I would imagine he might follow the Simon Beecher route and go into WFC2 initially, but to bring in that winning mentality must be good to add to the group as well.
Yeah. It's I actually talk with him on the phone now, and he also is very confident guy. He has I would say the right amount of swagger on the call. So yeah, we need. We said it multiple times last year that when things were going well, we were flying, but as soon as things were not going well, we were hitting a little bit of a hole, and we're digging a hole for a few weeks before getting up. So at every level, from the experienced player, from the new players, from the young players, we need players that are comfortable in having challenges, bring winning mentality. And winning mentality doesn't mean just a winning mentality to give everything on the pitch, on the game, but to show the winning mentality from day one of preseason and try to be their best version, because especially these young guys, they will have to show immediately that they can keep the pace with the other guys.
Some thoughts there from Vanni, Sartini and Axel Schuster on the first two draft picks in particular that were taken last month. Interesting to hear Axel saying that they had two guys targeted and one of them went in the top four, so they felt that they should trade up to get their second guy. And with him saying that, you have to feel that the other target was Canadian left-footed centre-back Moise Bombito from New Hampshire, who went third overall to Colorado, who had also done some trade action to get him. So much trade action on the day. And I think also, interestingly, with the Whitecaps' 3 picks in Gando, Johnson and Nimick, Top Drawer Soccer actually had the 3 of them rated 5th, 6th and 7th in their rankings. So potentially some absolutely fantastic picks there from the Whitecaps. We'll have to say that we're probably going to primarily see them playing in WFC2 to begin with. Worked very well for Simon Beecher last year, who showed his worth, as we talked about, with 8 goals and 4 assists for WFC2, earning that MLS first team contract in the process for this year, getting a call up as well to the Whitecaps for MLS action. Vanni does feel that Gando is maybe MLS ready though, so it's going to be interesting to see if he's maybe going to be a bit of a hybrid player and they're going to give him that MLS deal and just have him play in some playing time for both the first and the second team. As I mentioned though, there was a lot of draft action on the day. A lot of trades were done. It just felt though that this year that this was a never-ending draft, and there's just got to be a better way to do it. It just dragged on, and I mean, we've talked about it before that MLS feel that they just have to be in the drafts and do what the NFL do what baseball does, do what hockey do, because that's the North American way. It just drags on, and also not having it in person as well, you kind of feel just takes away from it anyway. So hopefully they can find a better way to do it, because this year, with all those trades, that just was such a boring draft at times. But talking of trades, there was some other trade action that took place before the draft got underway, with Whitecaps Academy alumni Brandon Cambridge getting traded to Charlotte FC for $50,000 in GAM. That was in exchange for MLS homegrown territory exclusivity over the midfielder Brandon Cambridge. As part of the trade, the Whitecaps could receive an additional $100,000 in GAM if Cambridge meets certain performance incentives. And in addition, the Whitecaps will retain a percentage of any future transfer that Charlotte do receive for Cambridge down the line. The 20-year-old midfielder originally joined the Whitecaps in 2017, spent time with the club at under 17, under 19 and under 23 level before committing to the University of Portland Pilots in July 2020. The product from Chilliwack had a great time there with Portland, was named the conference's Offensive Player of the Year. Originally born in New York City as well, so counts as a domestic for Charlotte. I thought it was a little bit strange to do this. So I wanted to kind of get the thoughts of Axel as to just why they did that. So let's hear what he had to tell me. Just about the trade you did this morning for Brandon Cambridge and receiving the GAM. Obviously, he was a highly rated player when he was in the academy and has had 3 good years at Portland. Was this just a case that he wasn't really in your first team plans, and if another club was interested, you just didn't want to stand in his way?
Look, Charlotte is in a different situation. They are just building their second team, and so they had a lot of needs for players. So for us, we actually haven't seen him getting a spot and getting the playing time that would be necessary to do the next step in our environment with the amount of players we have. We all know that we have Simon still there. We have actually brought in Lowell last year, who we also rate very high. And, there are a few other players and one other player that might probably comes to MLS Next Pro very soon that we rate very high. So it's also about being mindful about the development of such players. I think we had very good conversations with him. He actually was very grateful and thankful for us being so open and opening and helping him with this opportunity. We also sit here in the boat and we'll get additional bonuses and even future transfer sell-on participation. If there is not the space for this profile of player in our club, then I think the best job we can do is to help those kids to get a spot somewhere else where a club is looking for such a profile and needs it and can give him the playing time. And also we have a matching right, so we can also bring him back at any time Charlotte wants to trade him again or sell him again. So I think we did the best possible job to stay connected to him, to have still a good still have good connection to him and keeping the chance alive that he maybe comes back at a certain time if he develops right, and also helping him to be on the platform where he can do this next step.
So Axel Schuster there just chatting about that trade to Charlotte for the rights to Brandon Cambridge, and got to say, I liked the explanation there from Axel. Much like Montreal with Karifa Yao, the club just did not want to stand in the way of his development. He wasn't going to be featuring the first team at best. If they took him in, he was going to feature for WFC2. I think this is the way to go with these players. Develop them. Don't stand in their way for the good of Canadian soccer and the player. And who knows what happens down the line. Maybe we'll see him back in a Whitecaps jersey at some point down the line. But I do like that the Whitecaps, Montreal, clubs like that, they're just not standing in players' ways anymore, holding on to their rights when they're really not going to utilise them. And that is really the way things should be. So that is pretty much it for our Whitecaps chat. We'll have Wavelength to come and our sort of final tribute to Pele. But just before we get to that, any final Whitecaps thoughts looking into 2023? In particular, of course, there is the new rival in town, Vancouver FC, in the CPL. We'll do a CPL show soon as well. Do you feel it's going to have a big impact on the Whitecaps? If they have a good start to the season, will it make any difference? If they don't have a good start to the season, could it be a tough sell for the Whitecaps with this new rival in town?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. I mean, I think that it's a very, very large area, very, very, there's lots of people, right? So I think both clubs can thrive. I think the Whitecaps thriving will mean that they have to perform well. I think Vancouver FC, because they're new, and I think because of where they're playing, I think they have an opportunity to engage a group of people, you know, that are looking for something different, right? And so I think they both can. I think there's opportunity for them both to thrive and not to necessarily cause each other any kind of issues.
That's what I hope. I mean, I think there's definitely room in the market. And with the Whitecaps, like all their games, Steve, are kicking off at home at 7:30. So if Vancouver FC are sensible, they'll have afternoon kickoffs for the folk that want to do both, can do both.
Right. And I think there is going to be a rare thing where people do both. But I think Zach makes a great point that they have to be different. Whether it's the way they put the game on, pre game stuff, post game stuff. If you're like, I don't know what Langley rules are, but if you're able to do like a tailgate or something like that, that would be huge to bring people in.
Yeah.
People before the
Well,
game.
especially because there's not like great stuff around in some of the.
Yeah, so that's where it's going to be like they have to be different than what the Whitecaps are, because there's a lot of people that are like disillusioned from the Whitecaps. So you have to be able to show that you are different from the big club, but still put on a great show.
I think for Vancouver FC, when it comes to the Voyageurs Cup, I think the ideal, I probably won't be able to work this way with the rounds, but the ideal would be, I think, to play and beat TSS in the first round, to play and beat Pacific in the second round, and then to play and beat Vancouver in the third round. But
see, for me, I'm hoping TSS beat Vancouver in the first round, and then Pacific in the second round, and then face the Whitecaps.
There you go. You would say that you're an owner.
Of course. So that is pretty much it for the Whitecaps chat. It's not it for the show, though. We are going to just finish with our wavelength and a final tribute to Pele. So we've played a song before, which we played a little sample from at the start of the show, from a group called Wembley 73, which was Pele in Brazil related, Slough Town versus Brazil 66. I'd thought about digging that out again, but then I thought, no, let's find another tribute song to Pele. So I've gone back to a Brazilian artist from 1972, Luís Alberto del Parana, and this is his song, O Rei Pelé.
El rey jugador del balón, cuando juega las palmas es un show de balón y la hinchada ya está preparada a gritar, todo el mundo con locura gritan ¡gol! De Pelé, es el gol de Pelé que ya sonó, 4-2, 5-2, y marcando los goles a montón. Te dedico esta mi canción. Pelé, el mejor jugador, el rey jugador del balón. En el fútbol jamás tú tendrás un rival, la afición de la santa preparada a gritar, todo el mundo con locura gritan ¡gol! De Pelé, es el gol de Pelé que ya sonó, 4-2, 5-2, y marcando los goles a montón. Brasil, le dedico esta mi canción.
From 1972, Luís Alberto del Parana, O Rei Pelé. O Rei meaning the great one or the king, which Pelé, of course, was. R.I.P. Pelé. We'll hear some final thoughts from the great man to close out the show. Before we get to that, though, just some final thoughts and some goodbyes from you. Steve, where can folk find you online? Any final thoughts as we head into 2023?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at WhitecapsBeat, and no real final thoughts. Just hoping to see Vanni shirtless more on the pitch this year.
That's fair enough.
You find me on Twitter at Zachary AM, and yeah, nothing but blessings for everyone in 2023.
I'm Michael McCall. Find me on Twitter, AFTN Canada. Make it your New Year's resolution to like, subscribe and turn on notifications on AFTN Canada's YouTube channel, which we may get round to doing more videos from this year. It's been one of those years, it's just been so busy with me doing commentary and then Zach being at the World Cup. We maybe didn't get round to all the things we had hoped to do, but it's an exciting year for football here in the Lower Mainland. We've got the Whitecaps, we've got Vancouver FC, we've got League One BC. So much football to watch. It's going to be great. Get out and support it at all levels. That would just be my hope for all of you. Thank you for all your support of AFTN in 2022. Remember, you can continue to support us by subscribing to the extra podcast as well. Get all the details on aftn.ca about that. We'll be back with another episode soon. But for now, I want to leave you with the words of the great man himself, Pelé, talking about his career. R.I.P. the King.
El Shonarantes do Nascimento, the King.
The boy called me Pelé in the street. I don't know if I made some mistake or if it was a joking. I fight with the boy. I don't like. I said, no, my name is Edson. Because I was so proud because Edson is a nice name. They said, no, my name is Edson. Then I went to the school. The same boy in the classroom, they call me Pelé to tease me. I fight with him. Then whole school, the girls start to call Pelé, Pelé to tease me. And then I get the nickname Pelé, but nobody knows why. I think the first World Cup, when I was 17 to 18 years old, in the World Cup in Sweden, Brazil won in 58. This was the moment where I get, the base, where I get confidence in myself. Then I think this, I could mention it, one of the most important moments. I played 4 World Cup. And then I can say the last World Cup in Mexico was more important for me. When I played the first World Cup, I just was one more player there. I didn't have a responsibility. When I played in Mexico, the last World Cup, I already was a Pelé. Everybody expected for me. All the Brazilian people, the government started to press me. This was more important for me. I admire Beckenbauer. And the other player who I used to see, I like, was Bob Charlton from England, excellent player. The 1,000 goal who I scored in the Maracanã was by penalty kick, but whole world were there in that day. We get almost 200,000 people in Maracanã. It's the biggest stadium in the world. I think it was the largest crowd in the world. The 1,000 goal was important because it was, for all over the world. You have a lot of moments in your career. You see, a beautiful goal and the other person who score a nice goal. And I saw in Sweden, the center forward from Sweden that time, he scored for me one of the best goals who I saw against Brazil. It's the only sport where you see, the poor, the rich people, the queens, in one stage. And then you have a communicator all over the world. Doesn't matter your nation, doesn't matter your color. This is important, I think, in soccer. It's the sport where you put the people together and the world together. I don't want to change. I think if I have to do everything again since I was born until now, I will do everything again.